Hi, welcome back to another episode of Hi Haley. I just want to say thank you for watching. I've had so much fun making these videos, and we'll keep on going. So this week, I got to sit down with John Bird. He is the Director of Data and BI here at Ascendex, and he offered to give us a high-level overview of Power BI. So check it out. Hi, John. Welcome to Hi Haley.
Hi, Haley. It's great to be on.
Excited you're here. Before we get started, though, can you share what you do here at Ascendex?
I am a data BI developer, analyst, and kind of a Swiss Army knife.
All right. And the last question before we get started, and I ask it to everyone. I'm building up a list of recommendations over here, but what are you currently watching on TV?
So it's not one that everybody wants to watch, but we got intrigued by the tattooist of Auschwitz, and it was a very deep
Interesting.
story, but it was very intriguing, very thought-provoking.
Good recommendation. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for joining. Excited for a Power BI demo today. So I'm just going to hand it over to you.
Fantastic. Um, what I wanted to do is I really wanted to demonstrate the use of and the reasons for calculated columns, calculated measures. What's the difference? Rolling averages, how to create a rolling average, and rolling sums, and how to use those in a picture. So I'm just going to get some generic NASA climate data, and I'm going to pull it into a presentation or a Power BI, and we will rock from there.
Love it.
So,
Let's do it.
all right, so just pull up Power BI. I'm going to go get some data. So I have already pulled it down. It
Gotta
was,
say, I love the blue clicker. Nice and big.
it's bigger, it's easier to see. Depending, most platforms don't have that, so it stands out. So
I
it
like it.
helps me. um, right, and we're just going to load this straight up. And what you'll notice about the data, for those of us who in the U.S., we work in inches and Fahrenheit, but this data is in centimeters and or millimeters and in uh, Celsius. So that's how I'm gonna show how to use calculated columns and calculated measures to get your data. So um, as you can tell, here's our data sitting in the Power BI window. And again, as I said, you have a year, you have a month, the day. This is how much precipitation for that day, max and min of the temperatures. So that's what we're gonna start with. You can tell we now need to take this and say, wait a minute, we need to change the precipitation so that instead of being in millimeters, it is in inches.
Imagine
So
having to do that every day in your head. That's
I
how
do
we got our weather.
every single day.
Like, no, I don't need to know.
So I'm going to get a inches conversion. I'm just going to grab that and drop it in here. It equals, so we take the field and we multiply it by that calculator that I went and pulled from the internet. Say okay. And now we have a new column, so precip in inches. So that's an easy way to create a column. And again, one of the reasons and the difference between columns and measures is columns you can do totaling in calculations, whereas measures you can't total in a visualization because it's doing it on the fly and it can't total a total that it's calculating. So that's the reason why you would use a calculated column first. You
Mhm.
would go create that data, make sure that it represents correctly, and then you can use it in all of your presentations that you would want to create that would allow you to either total or do some manipulation of it because it's already an existing value that's already been calculated. So that's the difference between measures and columns. One other thing that is important to know is that measure columns, you won't be affected by your sorts or your filters. So if you need it to be, then you need to make sure you put it in the measure instead. So we've created a column. I could do the same with a Fahrenheit, but it's the same behavior. It would be another calculated column, and we're actually not going to create a graph that uses that. So I'm not going to show that, but that's what I would go do is I would convert those to Fahrenheit, do this to inches, and now you have a table that's Americanized.
Good
So
way to put it.
if I say, let's go ahead and use this, and we're going to load it. Once we have it. So I have an old version of this that I did some conversions and everything to before, but the one we were just working with is this one. And I'm going to connect it to my date table. And if you've been working in Power BI, you know that date tables are very important because they help you evaluate this information. The other thing that I forgot to do in this formula is I also needed to take the date because uh, it's in years separated, days separated, and months separated. I had to concatenate that. So I did that. We're going to use this table just because it's got that all done. But I ended up converting that so you can see it now has a table with the date in it. But this is the same data. It also has the Fahrenheit conversions, and it has your precip in inches. One other thing that I like to do, just because it really helps when you have lots of measures, if you look over here, you have lots of measures and lots of calculations. It's a lot simpler to know which ones you've used as calculated columns or calculated measures if you use a naming convention that you put underscore like CM for calculated measure or underscore CC for calculated column. That will put all of those calculations bunched together at the top of your tables, and that makes it easy to find, and you know where they are all the time, and you don't have to find them within all of the other columns that you've set. I find that to be a lot easier, a lot more useful, and a lot more maintainable, just because somebody else can come in and go, oh, I see where all your measures are. I see where all your calculation columns are for this table. So that's just a recommendation on my side that I've used for years. So one of the calculated measures that I needed to create is to show you the rolling totals and averages. So this is what I did to create a rolling measure. So if you say you want to take a formula that calculates the average of the field that you've got, which is
Mm-hmm.
our precip in inches, and you want to say if you want 30 days, you use the formula dates in period, and you can specify what dates you want to specify. So I put dates in period for that table
Mm-hmm.
and that column. The last date being so your first date and last date minus 30 days. So that's saying give me the average over 30 days from the date that you started back 30 days. And that will give you a calculated average. So this is a good example of a calculated measure that you would use to populate your table with those values. So they would calculate it on the fly. So if you see, and again, those don't show up in your tables, only the calculated columns do. But you have that measure to work with. I did the same with the sum, and it's the same basic thing, calculation using sum instead of average,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the same calculation. So now I have the ability to use a calculated measure that says it's going to average over a period of time. I picked 30 days. You could pick 7 days for a week. You could pick a quarter.
Mhm.
But it helps you kind of see, and you'll see in the graph that I put together, you'll see them in use. The month, the calculated measure of the daily average for 30 days, and the line graph of the temps precipes by month. So I can see each year, each of these represent a year, and I can say, oh, in the year of 2001, we had a lot of precip, average precip, much higher than most in the month of April. So this starts to give you a pattern of, oh, now I see, what years the month of April were heavy, what the typical average is, and what months have more precipitation than others, and whether or not there's some trends within years. So this was a way to show that data to go, all right, now I understand how the average is, because if you do the daily, it again, it's too volatile. But when you take that rolling average, you start to get your patterns of, oh, this can be valuable data, and we can start to understand how to work with it. So that's what I wanted to show you, a way to use rolling averages, a way to use, and you can do that with sums as well, as I showed. Um, you can use calculated columns and calculated measures to get those values, and then how to graph it and how it makes some sense using data from NASA's climate
I just
database.
like all the colors.
I did too,
Super colorful. Also looks like summer, you get more rain, which definitely the same here in Georgia.
which it should be.
Yeah.
It looks and it matches your pattern,
Mhm.
but it really does kind of allow you to go, oh, this was interesting in this year, and what happened. So
Well, this was super helpful. Appreciate you demoing it and being on Hi Haley today.
it's a great thing to be able to do. It's fun.
Well, I'll have to have you back on the show.
Okay, I'll take that invite.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.